Welcome back, everyone. This is the Refresh Point. My name is Ben, and as always, I'm joined by my constant co-host, Steve. How's it going?
You know what? Having a pretty good week. How about you, Ben?
It was going okay, and then, I had a heart attack, and then I didn't, and now we're here. But yeah, you know what? My week was actually great, or the previous weekend was great, because we just got back from Duluth, and we got second.
Yeah, apparently we can play this game a little bit.
We can play the card game just a little bit. So we'll be talking about that experience, some new set releases, the dreaded ban list, and keep an eye out for whales at the end of the day. So shuffle your decks, tap or cut, and we'll get right into the refresh point with some breaking news. We got second. Hooray! It's my first top cut ever. It's like my fourth tournament ever. And, some people might say that 3-3 in Swiss and 1-2 in top cut is not the best. But I won when my teammates lost when it mattered enough. And that's all I can take away.
Yeah, I mean, what's great about teams is that you get to, when your deck decides not to cooperate, sometimes, your teammates will be able to mitigate that. So we love to see it. Had a great time. Obviously, would have been great to win. Would have loved to win.
Would have loved to win.
We're very happy with our performance. And, we'll get to try again in Houston. So
yeah. At the same weekend, the Germany Regional happened. And... we'll talk about it a little bit here because our Spike Corner will be a little bit different this time. The winning list was Nino Escanor, and from what Twitter says, I believe it's a net deck of Shizukatsu's MTI deck with some adjustments. So it's cool to see that continuing to have stuff. At Duluth, our team was not Nino Escanor and something. It was Hololive, Slime, and Escanor. Yeah, fair enough. We got one of them, but the winning team had none of them. It was Don Machi, Hololive, Kanada Marine, and you were fighting
Kaguya.
Yeah.
The 8 pants.
8 pants
dream. Event dream.
Yeah. The 8 pants event dream, which I still consider to be pretty playable. And we both consider it to be playable. It's just difficult, and that man had the brain for it.
He told me during the match that he had the max rarity version of that deck in JP. So highly familiar with the play patterns, highly familiar with what he needed to do to succeed. Was an extremely close game. A lot of times Weiss comes down to, can they get what they need? And if they do you have what you need? Mm-hmm. So I had what I needed, which was Minus Souls combo and near certain victory on the crackback turn that was following up. He needed just enough damage to get there. The last attack, I'm at 3-5. He's hitting for 1. It's possible that he'll only hit for 1, but he hits for 2. I have 3 climaxes and 8. It's possible I'll block 2, but I don't. So it's one of those things that, the minutia of the game, it comes down to very specific things. And so, congrats to them. They played extremely well, and I have no negative feelings about the match at all.
My last match in finals was, and I think my opponent will agree, some absolute wild garbage. It was a hot dumpster fire where we both penaltied climax at least 4 times between ourselves. The last turn was just absolutely wild. He barely killed me. I thought I was much deader than I actually was somehow. I thought I was dead to rights, and somehow it was actually close, and then I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and the third game was extremely close as well. Yeah. But we can talk about it a little bit more when we get to it. But also, we got the ban list update.
Nino and Escanor got taken out back and got a little slap on the wrist.
Yeah, I think that these are the type of restricts I prefer, where it's not any fun, and it feels bad for players and for the scene whenever a really good deck gets taken out back and shot. So I prefer a more subtle approach. I'm happy with a more subtle approach. That being said, I'm sure there's a chunk of the player base that is not happy because these decks aren't going away.
Well, that, and also, like, people who started picking up Escanor and feel like we only got Worlds and, like, half a regional season, and it's already getting, like, hit, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially compared to Quint, which has been at the top of the meta from the second it was introduced until now.
Yeah.
So it's been nearly a full year of Nino just pummeling the format. And so I'm sure there are people who want that deck to disappear. And so this isn't that change, but
it matches.
It does matter.
It matches the JP ban list. It'll all be rectified whenever the movie set comes out, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Other news: Bank Dream set release. It's here. Get ready for Kasumi.
Yeah.
Some next soul counters, no auto damage, burn 2 anyway. Like
yeah, we're adding another great defensive option to a list of already
just option. Like it's already essentially it's already Marine, right? Where you get the burn 2 on it, like at the end of the attack. You're swinging 3 times, you're burning 3 times, and then it also has the defensive option.
Yeah, so it's kind of a mid-defensive option. Your opponent does get the choice of whichever they'd prefer to hit you with. So either they can land their auto damage by side attacking, or they can just go in with it and avoid the auto damage and just not get the auto damage. That being said, there are some things that it can do. And so the meta is starting to introduce a whole lot of defensive tools. It's going to become increasingly harder for Escanor and other finishers like that aren't as explosive but are vulnerable to that sort of counterplay to navigate that. It's even more important now that they have to sculpt these kind of tools that prevent this sort of counterplay every single game.
And not for Houston, just before Houston, but unfortunately for some, not for Houston, SAO is releasing.
Yeah, so we get SAO on the 21st, and the impact to the meta will be gigantic. This is a deck with a very unique game plan that is very, very hard to respond to if it goes off without any hitch. But there are hitches, and everyone's aware of it. This deck has been doing extremely well in Japan. No competitive player who's been keeping an eye on this scene is going to be shocked when this deck drops at what it does.
Yeah. It's just like, when it releases, you're going to be like, well, where are my 2 Slayers?
Yeah, I mean, there's some game plans that will become a lot harder to execute once that starts to pal around.
Yeah. Stuff like, it's funny, I was considering even, like, jamming Kobayashi, like a variant of Kobayashi, because there is a no backup 2 Slayer, and there's like a reasonable amount of power in the 8-bar list where you can just be like, let me rest this cannon, give my 2 Slayer 1/5, slam this climax, it's a 12/5, please die.
Yeah, I think people will be, depending on your local and depending on how it performs at regionals, I think it's reasonable to be looking at your set to how exactly you're going to manage this. And since this episode will be coming out well before the set release, we'll have time to talk about the set release in more detail in a later episode. But suffice it to say, there are other channels who are going to produce much more comprehensive set releases. If this is a set you're really interested in, PGH will probably put out a very comprehensive set breakdown that will explain everything that's good about this set to you and the differences between what it does in English versus what it's going to do, what it does in JP.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have that much editing time. But moving on now. It's time for the Spike Corner. We went to Duluth. We got second. It was pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of mixed feelings, obviously, after getting second, which, it'll happen. But for me personally, our dynamic on this podcast is I'm the youngster and you're the old guy. And that comes up again here. And this is probably, it's my first top cut, first off.
Yeah.
It's pretty much second time trying to bring a competitive deck and go in with a competitive mindset to a regional. The first time was at Chicago last year. I played Slime. I went X2, bubbled out, so c'est la vie. But it's definitely a different feeling going into the top cut and like really trying to zero in and fight for it. And I think the funny thing was my mindset kind of, the way I tried to get myself in the zone for it was the entire week, maybe 2 weeks before, and like every day before and on the day of, it was almost like a mantra of like, all right guys, we're gonna win the regional and then go home. And then on the day of, it was like, all right guys, 9 rounds, and then we go home.
Yeah.
You know, we just need to win 8 more rounds, 7 more rounds, 6 more rounds, and then we'll, you know, get the prize card and go home. Just like treating it just like as like a matter of fact of like, we're just gonna win. I just need to do it, and then we'll win, and then we'll be good.
Yeah, and I thought that as a team we played extremely well. I think it's important to acknowledge that it becomes easier the more you do it.
Yeah.
But the first couple are, I mean, if your expectations are high for yourself, it can be nerve-wracking. Mm-hmm. So I'm very proud that you've done extremely well at both the regionals where you've tried seriously to do well, and that's commendable because that's not necessarily a given in any competitive scene. But yeah, I thought it was a very good event. We did very well. Obviously, we wanted to win, you know,
yeah.
But you're not going to be able to win all of them, so you should be happy for the success that you do have, and I'm pretty happy with it. So
yeah, and we have a different team than we've ourselves espoused as the quote-unquote winning formula, which is, you know, Nino, Escanor in a third deck. We ourselves did not do that. We went with our other advice, which is play the deck that you're comfortable with. I'm very comfortable on Slime. I've been playing it as kind of like my tryhard deck of a sorts for the last year and a half, 2 years. And you've been playing that HoloLive list after you and I think Riaz kind of brainstormed it out.
So we had talked about it. He had showed it to me.
Uh-huh.
And I will take no credit for the building of this. But it had gotten shown to me, and I thought it was good. So I decided to run it because ultimately I felt, and I've said this on this podcast before, the only weakness that Escanor truly has is if they get too far away to finish. And a lot of what the Sora engine does is put the game in a situation where your opponent can't win, and they have to wait. And the problem with that is if you build it standard Sora, which is normally built with standby into Sora so that you can start choking them more prolifically faster. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is that you have no way to win. Your way to win is by autoing them for 4 and hoping that they die. And the problem is that's not a great strategy.
And so alternatively now, you have your Caillou, kind of like an early game engine that also gets through your first deck. Then you do Sora at level 2, because it was always going to be early playable at 2 anyway. And then you have Mario.
Yeah, and so the advantage of running it in this manner is you get the Marine finisher, which the good thing about that and about Sora is those cards don't require a lot of hand to set up. You know, Sora needs basically 1 card. You need the 2/1. You can ditch anything, and if you have the 3/2 in the waiting room, you can pick it up, and then the 3/2 summons the other 3/2s. So very little setup needed for Sora. Very little setup needed for Marine.
And even if you need setup for Sora, you have your homie Robocop.
Yeah, so you have the shuffle 2 mechanic where you can shuffle in copies, but anyone who's faced Marine has dealt with the frustration of my opponent doesn't really have anything. He plays a Marine, he checks 3. He plays a Marine, he checks 3. He plays a Marine, he checks 3. And oh look, he got everything he needed in the first 12 cards. I guess I'm dead. And so you get to leverage that as well. So I was happy with the choice. I thought it would do well against Escanor, and I was right.
Yeah, this guy's undefeated against Escanor at the regional, by the way. Just the Slayer. This guy was like 5-1 in Swiss. His only loss was not against Escanor.
Yeah, I lost to Kaguya in the Swiss.
Yeah.
And I lost to Kaguya in the finals.
Yeah.
So apparently...
Punished for not following your waifu tisk tisk.
Yeah, I was... Another player had mentioned that to me. So, yeah, that's just the way Weiss can be sometimes.
Yeah.
But...
Punished for not going to Love is War. But that's okay.
Yeah. So, one of the things that did happen while we were in Duluth was, we shared a hotel room. And
we slept extremely poorly.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. You didn't feel like...
Yeah, I'll say for my experience, I almost never sleep well at hotels so far. Even like when I go home to my so I live in Dallas right now, obviously. I grew up in Houston. When I go to visit my family in Houston and sleep in what is my childhood bed, I actually just can't sleep well either.
Really?
It's just not, it feels like a hotel.
Is it do you think it's the environment?
I think it is.
Like it's just vastly different from
my
normal sleep environment?
From my normal sleep environment. And so, and at the hotel, I slept even worse. I think I was awake and I was just like closing my eyes and failing, and I heard you snore a bit, and then you fell off, and then I heard our team partner snore a bit, and then he fell off. And I look at the clock. I tried to go to bed at 1. It's 3:44. I'm like, surely at one point there will be sleep. And then there was. For maybe an hour and a half. And then I woke up at like 6 or 7, and then we went to Duluth.
So, I've traveled for card games for a very long time, and I'm finally at the point in my life now where I'm just not... I'm actually sleeping in a bed and not on the ground.
Yeah.
Or, in various contorted positions, or, sharing with like 5 other people. When I was much younger and admittedly like with less means, that was a thing. It's like if we're gonna drive 9 hours to play in a tournament, then we can't be hard wailing out on the hotel budget. So, but I think that, yeah, that can really affect your performance.
I was definitely feeling it by finals, and I feel like that probably would have like changed what my position was. Like, if I was a little more awake, I probably would have checked myself. But also, it's also my own personal play pattern. But I also probably could have been able to check myself and say, this is 6 climaxes and 10 cards. Let's not clock and swing 3 times.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, you get some adrenaline, from the excitement of the event.
Yeah.
But as soon as the deck check happens and you're kind of just chilling for a long period of time, that's when it starts to wear off for me. That's when you can get vulnerable, because, with the pace of a Weiss event, you don't have very much time in between rounds to relax, chill, whatever. Like, we are snappy getting to the rounds. So, and we only had 1 repair, and it was pretty quick. So overall, I felt the event was run in a very timely manner.
Yeah, it was run well.
Yeah.
For the most part.
And so when you're just playing, that keeps you from having to feel that fatigue. But yeah, as soon as the deck check hits, that's usually, if you get to top cut and they start doing the deck check, that's when you start to feel that fatigue. Because you get like an hour basically where you're doing nothing. And our deck check was a little longer than normal.
Yeah. I'll say it.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
it's my first top cut. I didn't realize what a deck check really meant, and my sleeves after Swiss were completely fucked. There was no saving them from the deck check, and we had to go to a vendor and buy some new sleeves.
So if you're gonna be attending a regional event or any big tournament for any
Please
card
buy
game,
new sleeves.
Yes.
Bring them with you.
Yes.
Sleeve them for Swiss with the new sleeves, and have like the spare pack of 50 with you, so that when you get to deck check, you can just slot out whatever's damaged, or the whole deck perhaps.
Yeah, and I mean all of us had to switch sleeves out. You
Yeah.
know? And I had put new sleeves on the day of. Like it had only been played in the rounds of the tournament, and there were still 3 or 4 that were damaged enough to where the head judge wanted them switched. So
Yeah, and so I was silly and did not bring sleeves, and thus I played the top cut with just the worst dragon shields that were available at that vendor, and I was like, word. Alright.
yeah,
My bad.
yeah, it's one of those things that you don't forget once it happens to you once.
Oh yeah. And
So let's talk about what your expectations were going into the event.
sure.
So we all wanted to do really, really well. And, for myself, I've won a Springfest and gotten third in another Springfest. So I've done well at Springfest before with different teams. So my expectations for myself were already pretty high. But what were your, if we can be truly honest with ourselves here,
Okay.
what would you have been happy with?
So I have a lot of mixed feelings about this regional, because at the previous singles regional I went X2 in
Right.
Swiss. In a 7-round Swiss, I went X2. And this time, I just factually won less, but I feel like my play was better.
Sure.
And maybe I just need to see a therapist, but I guess my expectations were warped because I kept just repeating to myself, like, I just need to win. We just need to go there and win, and everything will be Daijobu. We're just gonna win. There's no other outcome to consider besides winning. If we lose, we just win the next one, and it doesn't matter. We just keep winning as much as we can, which is ideally all of them. And so it's hard for me to think about what my expectation previously to that might have been, because it was kind of like a diehard the expectation is winning, and even if we don't win, that's fine because we just keep winning as much as we can, and then as far as we go is as far as we go.
Sure. I think that for me, I think one of the most salient points of that is you lost more games, but you played better.
Right.
So the takeaway from that should always be, you don't decide who wins. You don't. The only thing that you decide is the quality of your play, and the rest of it is up to the game. And the faster that you can grip that idea and be at peace with it, the easier it will be to improve at games. All games. Because the element of chance that comes from every game is what makes the game fun. It's what makes it exciting instead of somewhat formulaic. And part of that is accepting that sometimes you're not going to get it. And you didn't do anything wrong. You just didn't win. So it's good to have that kind of mentality. And it's also good to be able to say, we expect to win. And we believe that we are going to win. Because that kind of self-actualization, that will never hurt you in the long run.
Because it's like, for me, I guess, I was like, in my mind, I was like, well, I can't go into this thinking we might win, because that includes doubt. We need to go in and say we will win, and there's no doubt. And then whenever stuff comes up, we just keep rolling forward.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Shout out to Brian from I think from the third place team. Ultimately, number one, I thought we would fight the third place team in the finals. That they lost to the Don Machi Kaguya Hololive team, to me was like, wow, interesting. But I mean, that the winning team was obviously a good team, and I was like, okay, neat. But he just absolutely executed me at our last round of Swiss. I'm sitting at 2-2. I just double triggered, but it was like 3 in 10 to 15 cards. I can't exactly remember. And I was like, I live, right? And then he just pulls out the triple quint finisher, triggers just enough, and executes me on the spot. And I was like, word, all right.
Yeah, one of the things, and we talked about this before the cast, but one of the things that is different about tournament play is when the game gets really sloppy, you have to keep going. A lot of times when you're doing your practice games, when you're doing your locals or something like this, where there's like less tension, you have a tendency to relax your play when games are starting to go a little bit sideways, and you'll just kind of either accept death or you'll start playing more wildly. Tournament play tends to lean sloppy. Games you would normally scoop or start over or whatever, you have to keep going. And so playing from those sloppy positions is a skill, and it's difficult to hone. And one of the ways that you do hone it is to try and continue to give effort in most positions, because unlike a lot of games, this game desires drama. It wants it, and it will have it.
Drama.
Yes, and it will have it if you let it. So yeah, try not to let your mind disengage when games start to go really poorly, because you never know what games you'll be in or be out of. You know, the game I lost in Swiss, my Kaguya opponent had a turn where he attacked with 2 characters at level 1. And his deck was going completely sideways. And I felt like there was no way that I could lose. And that mentality will hurt you during games.
Right.
If you think that, right? If you think, okay, well, this game's in the bag and you're not at that point where you know the game's too uncertain, you can still, like, that relaxing point will cause you to lose games. And
actually, because there was like a world where I went like, maybe I can die. Let me heal down just one more. And apparently that would have let me live.
Yeah.
It might have been just like, what is it? It might have been like, oh, well, I don't want to use up all of my stock.
Yes,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
But also, this guy's at 3-5. He's definitely about to triple finisher me. Maybe I do just need a heal.
And he's super dead next turn.
Exactly.
Anything.
Because, yeah, and it's like...
If he triple cancels on 2/2/2, then the game is what it is.
Exactly. But it's that exact mindset that I should have had, instead of thinking, okay, I think it's fine. Because, like, if I had
I'll just block.
Down, yeah. But if I had healed down...
Then you just don't die.
I would have not died. Yeah. And it didn't matter anyway. It was just like a misjudge. Because, like, he's at 3-5. It doesn't matter if I don't.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter if I don't have money. I'm just going to field the 3 next guys in my hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And swing 3 times.
And I had the exact same thing happen. So that's a great takeaway for the next event, is that the game is never certain. Until it is over, it is not certain. And you need to play with the same level of intensity regardless. I played out our last round of Swiss very intently, even though the other 2 games had already been decided and we had already lost. And so I think 2 judges came by while I was trying to finish my last turn of the game and ultimately, like, execute a bit of a tricky marine finish, just because I didn't have the right pieces. But, you know, it was one of the things where, like, do I have to play this out correctly? No. I can just stop. Or I can just scoop. It doesn't matter. The result doesn't matter. But the problem is that you're going to be in this situation again in a higher tension situation where it does matter. And it's better to have the practiced memory. It's better to have already gone through it in a situation where you could think clearly. Because the higher the tension, the greater the possibility that you will misplay, because there will be the tension itself will cause it. You'll be thinking about, oh my gosh, what if we win? How the prize card, whatever, trip to Japan, whatever it is that you're about to win, that tension will distract you. That tension will cause you to misplay. And the best way to fight against that is to have already made the play 100 times before. Then you don't even think. Your brain just does it because you've been here. And so that's the reason I always play out matches in best of 3. That's the reason I always try to make the right moves at the end of the game. Because you will be back here. The game will put you back here eventually. If you keep playing the same deck, you're going to find yourself in the same position. I've got another Springfest. We're going to another Springfest, right? So the chances of me not being in this position again with the same deck and basically the same meta, highly unlikely. Exactly. So better to have practiced it out.
Yeah. And I think that's Duluth. That was our experience in Duluth. We are going to go to the Houston Spring Fest. And this time, the rest of our DFW locals will be down with us. So, we'll be all spamming that one meme, like, just because we ride together, don't mean nothing, y'all can get this work,
Yeah, if you don't have that, Yotspa meme, we'll
You know what, we'll post it. I'll put it on this screen. I'll put, like, an image link to it. You can have it. Spam it with all of your homies that you're riding with to all the regionals, because you gotta have the mindset, just like we had the mindset of like, okay, we're just gonna win. We're gonna win, and we're gonna win this round and the next round and all of them until we win. You gotta think, all right, we're all riding together, but that don't mean shit.
That's right.
Y'all can get this work because I am going to win, and I hope you too have that same magic as well.
Yeah. Also,
or mindset. I don't know why I said that.
Yeah, and the other thing is that it's home turf for us.
Yeah.
So
welcome to Texas, everybody.
the team that beat us, I believe, is from the area.
Yeah, they're from Texas.
And so they defended their house, and you best expect that we'll defend ours. So if you're coming
they had 3 Georgia teams in the top 8.
Yeah, I mean, they performed fantastically. But yeah, if you're coming to Texas, you can get this work. That is for sure. Let's discuss Bang Dream really briefly while we're here. Not going to go into super detail about the set, but it is releasing, it is meta, and it fits very neatly into the spike corner. Yeah. So
it is going to be coming up legal for Houston.
Yes.
So for everybody that's not in the know, let's get you in.
Yeah, so let's talk about this set briefly. We've got some very nice tools being added. The trick with an anniversary deck, like many anniversary decks, is that you have to be careful adding old stuff to it, because a lot of the cards in this set are anniversary only. Their effects are anniversary or banned only. So you have to, if you want the best of the effects from this set, your deck is going to need to be majority anniversary. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about this set. Read the cards extremely closely. Obviously, the girls will always work with their own band, but a lot of these mechanics will cross-band and work really tightly if they're all anniversary. So let's talk about it real quick. Just the highlights, the big pieces. 8 door, I think, is going to be the build that most people will gravitate to if in terms of immediate meta impact.
Mm-hmm. That Kasumi we mentioned earlier, specifically, during your turn, it becomes a 12k if you have 2 or more. On play, you get to draw 2, Dig 2 and Blind Stock.
Yeah, so it's cheap.
Yeah, it is cheap. And then at the end of the attack, if you have another character, you pay the cost of a 2. I believe it's burn 2,
yep.
And then across turn, your opponent's characters cannot deal auto effect damage.
Right. During battle.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So that's your bog standard anti-damage mechanic on top of a character that digs for its own climaxes and is pretty cheap. So
And it comes with an event. It's a counter event. It's a 3-0. It's free.
yeah,
It's free. So you can dig for it with your finisher, and you don't need to pay the cost for it. -3 soul if you're countering with that finisher.
right. And importantly, it chooses itself. Doesn't choose your opponent's characters, so it gets around any sort of pesky, cannot be chosen type characters. Really nice package there for Kasumi. It's on the door trigger, so
You like door?
Very nice trigger. It's all highly synergistic, and it doesn't cost that much. So because it's end of the attack, and the character itself is only played for 1 stock net, 6 stock. So
Very cheap.
6 stock for triple is reasonable.
And it digs
And
to
it-
the death.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, it doesn't heal.
does not heal.
So you have to be a little careful digging too hard, and you don't want to drop this thing till you know it's either win or lose the game. So, we can kind of work backward from there. We get 2 new early plays out of this that are highly anniversary specific. So we get a 2 or fewer early play that heals an anniversary or Morphonica character to hand. So, healing to hand is quite strong when we can just pick it. So being able to just pick it off of, from the clock, this will grab your finisher, this can grab, whatever it is that you need at the time. Very, very good card. The other early play healer is a 4 or more, and it's a 4 or more, and you can ignore the color requirement. So even if you're not playing red, you can still play it.
But in this list, it's 8 door. You're gonna play red.
Sure.
Not relevant, but it can
just
be.
in case, right?
Just in
if
case.
you're running a different anniversary type list, because there is a different list that runs mostly majority blue, but we get to heal to the bottom of the deck. Not as good as healing to hand, if I can be completely honest.
But it's a 4 more. We take it.
Yes, healing to the bottom of the deck is probably the weakest of heals, but we do take it. So good news there. Our 1-0 advantage engine comes from the trial deck. It is a Yukina. I think this marks one of her very few red cards. It's on reverse, so we do have to take some risks in order to make this work. But on reverse, we can discard anything from our hand, and as long as we have 2 or more other on the field, we can search 2, and we can get anniversary resilient characters. So ditch 1 to search 2 is definitely very good.
A 7/5 in this format is also not bad, power-wise.
No, and we have a way to get even more power. So we have a 1-0 bonder, not bonder, but a bond style mechanic where we can pay 1 and kill it to grab one of these Yukinas from the waiting room and then put it on the board, and it gains X times 1,000 power for the number of your anniversary or Roselia characters. So 5,000 power if the board's already full when you do this. That is huge.
Hear me out. Let's just kill it.
Yeah. 12-5 is massive. So
I think 12/5 matches Alice. With
it
memory
matches
counter.
it matches Alice with one of her supports and the memory counter. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a very important number and will become more important when the set releases. But yes, we are looking for 12/5 as our magic Alice removal number.
Yeah.
We get a decent free fresher here. It costs nothing. All we have to do is discard an event and we get to free fresh.
Hype.
And then we get a bonus effect if it's a pretty decent level 3 Slayer.
Yeah.
So a very runnable card. You're not going to run a ton of this thing, but if pay 1, pitch an event to refresh is pretty cheap as free refreshes go.
And in your event where you're gonna play the Soul Down and Buns for Luck, yes.
Yeah. So we should
Yeah.
have extra events kicking around.
Yeah, for sure.
We get the nice early play remover that sends it to memory. It also has an additional kicker where they can't move. So
Hype.
even if there was a way to JC it or something like that, you're gonna. Oh, I'm sorry. It can be JC'd. It can't move to other slots on the stage, so it can't dance with another card.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of nice. Permanent removal of higher level cards is never to be overrated.
Yeah.
So good news there. We get
Climax Swapper.
a little Climax Swapper that's got a event level zone manipulation in case you have the wrong colors or you need to do experience fix or something like that. And then we get a really, really good chaser. We get an Orisa chaser that is the Goblin Slayer style chaser. It's 500 less power than the Gil Thunder and these type of chasers, but you can't side attack. So all it needs is 5 cards in hand, and I can run around and harass you with a 3k power character that you can't side attack. And on top of all of that, it gains Bonsai in hand. So if you wanted to run this outside of an Anniversary deck in a Popping Party deck with That Irritating Girl and the That Irritating Girl Bonder, this is an absolutely incredible add, because you get 4 of another Bonsai card that you can just flush later in the game to get Irritating Girl events. So, fantastic card, very worth running in any sort of deck where you're either playing Anniversary or you're playing, Popping Party. So I think those are the big high points. Obviously, there will be other creators that put together that I'm sure have already put out whole analysis for this set. So please hit those guys up, if you want your comprehensive and Bang Dream 5th anniversary coverage.
We're just a refresh point. We're not here to do the whole deck.
Correct. That's right. We're here to get you caught up to speed and refreshed, but we are certainly not near as good or comprehensive as other creators, so that is why we always turn you to them.
Yeah. And finally today, though, it's time. I hear it now. It's time for a whale sighting.
Yeah, we haven't had a good whale sighting in a while.
Yeah.
So
it turns out with regionals, there comes prizes, and not just mats like the top 3 mats we got. There are also cards that you can win.
Yeah, so the first place prize card. And when they say that you win nothing from winning Weiss tournaments, well, not anymore. Because if the price of recent prize cards has been any indication, you can win a lot of money playing Weiss.
Yeah. The Karumi Shop Challenge promos are just like $100, $150 on Global right now.
I've seen it in that range, and it won't. It
won't stay. But
I think that your buyer pool is restrictive, but and maybe part of that is that the Bushi Road maybe hasn't gotten a lot of them out to the people who have won shop challenges.
Is that a little salt I hear?
Well, in any case, if you have yours, it looks like there's a way that you can make some money off of it. So good news there. Also, I haven't seen any of the Springfest promo card being offered yet.
Right.
But,
oh yeah, it was the Chica.
No, Katara.
Oh, that's what you mean.
Yes, Katara.
Yeah.
So if you win a Springfest,
you get Katara.
You get a very nice shiny card for your future Avatar: The Last Airbender enthusiasts.
It's an early play
It appears
healer.
Yeah, it appears very playable.
Yeah.
So
unless they just print some like godly other early play healer, like, dude, this kind of looks like it. Kind of looks like a staple. Kind of looks shiny.
Yeah. So I think that those will be worth. I think 4 figures could be gotten early on for sure.
And we still haven't seen any listed. I don't think.
I haven't. I've been kind of trolling for them just to see how much that loss in the finals actually will cost me. But yeah, I would expect it to be pretty decent for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of decent cards, Sao is incoming, and this time, Aniplex let us have signs.
Yeah. So. Real signs to SAO for the first time since Alicization 1.
Yeah.
Is absolutely huge for, in particular, your Asunas, your Alices, your Lifas. These cards are going to spike off in a way that we have not seen from SAO in a while.
Yeah.
So,
because you recently, or I guess not recently, but you maxed out an Alicization 2 deck, right?
yeah.
And that was largely like OFRs, a few stamps.
Yeah,
and...
so it was mostly OFRs and stamps and foils. And you know, I think I have one real SP in there, which is the Yu-Gi-Oh from Alice 1.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of it is you know, heavily stamps. And part of what made maxing that deck possible was the fact that those stamps were so reasonable. You know, people didn't desire them from a collectability perspective, other than the numbered ones, of course.
Right.
We don't have any of those, but that's because, you know, we're still working real jobs out here. we didn't win any money.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that will not be the case with this anniversary set. There's a lot of really playable signs, and real signs will bring collectors to the set. Yeah, you have to be ready to open the wallet. That's just all there is to it. This set's gonna be highly desired. Also, it happens to be peak meta. It's been crushing everybody's face in Japan, and there is no reason to believe it will not do well in the
What's
States.
the Alice sign? Is the Alice sign the 2-1?
It is not.
Okay.
It is the level 0 Ricky.
Oh.
But
yeah, you would sell.
Yeah, I mean, you're running this thing.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's just a very good card.
Yeah.
The Asuna 3/2 where she's got the angel wings.
Is that
it's an early play healer.
Okay,
and then it bounces back to your hand. That one is gonna be painful.
Oh man.
And the Lifa.
Can you see a 2K for it?
No, The biggest thing that'll keep the price down will be so many people be opening this set that the quantity will just be through the roof.
True.
But the Lifa is a really, really important card for the actual build itself, and it's a Lifa, so I expect that card spiked off pretty hard in Japanese. I think it's still around the $300 point. So my guess is that, yeah, the staple pieces that are required for the deck build that also happen to be all the good girls will spike hard.
And in the horizon, we've got some red-haired searching whales ready for the movie set.
Yeah, so
Quint
movie is coming, and the problem is, the biggest issue is that, especially for Ichika, or not Ichika, Itsuki,
yeah.
A lot of the deck is changing over.
Oh yeah.
And so, huge deck changeover is going to involve some investment.
Even Nino's getting a new 1 combo.
Yeah, I mean, both Nino and Itsuki will see significant change to the way the deck's built. And so, unfortunately, if you have been max raritying, I have bad news. You're going to have to continue to invest, but luckily the sunk cost fallacy is probably already death gripping you from behind as it is already. So this will be no problem to open up the wallet for the 3rd time and keep showing support for your favorite quintuplet.
Yeah, I mean, you know, surely this will be the last time. You know, surely that anime there was an April Fool's though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know how much more we'll get, but I do know.
Surely there won't be any more quints, right?
Yeah, I mean, why would they want to keep pumping that set? In any case, being top tier meta does not hurt either.
Yeah.
But I'll say this: the whales will have to really dig deep to keep the rarity maxed, but I'm sure they will have no trouble. It's also worth mentioning that this Bang Dream set that just came out is likely to cause an absolute feeding frenzy over the SSPs and
the
SPs.
Yukinas.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And so the biggest...
We didn't even talk about, like, this Yukina deck that's just, like, burn 4, on reverse, hit 1, burn 2, you know. Icy Tail for 1 just to rub it in a little bit more. Yeah, there's a lot more going on as well.
Yeah, but, you know, you're already seeing all those cards stock out, and the biggest problem for whales is that This set's not going to be open that much.
I don't think it was, yeah. I think
think
Strictly's already out of most of, like, the choice.
The hard
like
committers.
SSBs,
Yeah, the hard committers are already there.
They've already gotten it.
Yeah, and so those are the people that, like, are really interested in the set. And so, yeah, it's going to be an even bigger struggle for the whales to secure the bag on Bang Dream. Because SAO and quintuplets, people will open cases and cases and cases and cases and cases of those. But when the set gets a little more niche, you know, Bang Dream is the Bushiroad, you know, love child. So they're going to keep pumping the sets. It doesn't cost them very much to do it. But the fan base is admittedly smaller than it is for some of these other big sets. And so if you're hard whaling on SSPs and SPs from Bang Dream, it's going to get tough. It's going to get tough fast. So, as always, we'll keep our safe post from the ship. We don't jump out into the water. We just keep an eye on them from afar.
Well. Not often.
Yeah.
But I will say it's you know, when Guilty Gear comes out, as an example, like, there will just... I feel like there's going to be a lot of product for that kind of floating around. Or like a decent amount. But... Or like with Avatar The Last Airbender. Like, that set will be cracked to the high heavens. But when Review Starlight Relive comes out, and it's already, like, 3 years behind the meta... and there's still SPs and SSPs. I'm gonna be, you know, off the ship for a little bit.
Well,
day 2.
everybody takes their time off the ship every once in a while, but that doesn't make them whales. That just makes them divers. See, the whales are out there all the time. They don't leave. They stay there. And so that's what separates them from us, is that we're the casual observers. And so that's where we like to stay.
Oh my God.
Is observing, documenting, trying to understand, but ultimately being continually mystified every time we do a whale sighting.
Of course. It's going to be rough for them for sure. I think it's 40 SSBs.
It's a lot. I don't remember the exact number.
I think it's 40.
A huge quantity. It's one for every girl.
Good luck. And with that, that'll be our time here at the Refresh Point. Thanks for listening. Our next episode, you know what, I did not look at a calendar before coming here.
Our next episode our next episode will be the SAO release date.
Oh.
That's when we'll be recording. So
it will.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll have our much more detailed talk about SAO.
And it'll release our next episode will release right before Houston.
Yeah.
So we'll see you at Houston, but also we'll say that again.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah. I think we're poised to have a very exciting month of Weiss.
We're gonna have an exciting month. And that'll be it for us today on the Refresh Point. Take it and go.